This episode was co-produced by Deeptech Nation Switzerland Foundation, a non-profit foundation committed to sustainably improving the framework for Swiss startups, scale-ups, and investors in the deep tech sector. Their goals are to mobilize 50 billion Swiss francs in venture capital and create 100,000 jobs within the next 10 years, making Switzerland the world-leading deep tech nation. Check out how they can support your business journey at deeptechnation.ch. Again, that's deeptechnation.ch.
We basically invest so much into creating these outstanding innovations on the one hand, but then when it comes to actually, translating the innovations into an actual business and then growing the business, we don't seem to have the same kind of energy and an investment that is necessary.
Welcome to the Swisspreneur Show, a podcast about startup stories and learnings from experienced entrepreneurs. If you enjoy listening to our show, make sure to follow the podcast and leave a rating. And now, here's your host, Sylvain.
Joanne, a very well welcome to the Swisspreneur Show. It's a pleasure to have you as a guest today.
Thanks for having me, Sylvain.
You are the CEO of Deeptech Nation Switzerland, a foundation that acts as a catalyst for the Swiss innovation ecosystem. Before we talk about the very important mission that you follow, I want to talk a bit about your personal background. You are the CEO today of Deeptech Nation Switzerland, but before that you worked on microcredit projects, consultancies, and you even ran a sandstone import business. What was sort of the through line between all these different projects?
Well, through line probably was mostly to create something from scratch or to develop something further that's already there. Basically, as many people, to create an impact, right? I mean, to make a change, make a difference with great people together. I think that's probably kind of the through line. But as you can see from my background, it's not like perfectly planned, as in this is like the perfect CV. There was like steps to the left and right. And yeah, I think in my view, it's vital, right, to be open to opportunities that came along. Like, for instance, the sandstone import business that you were mentioning, that was basically a huge coincidence. When I was working in India in the NGO, I didn't actually plan for that. It just happened. Mm-hmm. But then the opportunity was there and I was like, okay, let's go for it. So,
amazing. Yeah. That's the spirit, right? And very industry agnostic in that sense.
Exactly.
Then in 2013, you actually decided to take a break and to travel through Southeast Asia. Tell us a bit more about that trip and how it impacted you.
Yeah, that was really a unique experience. It was something, basically when I worked in India back then in 2009, I kind of fell in love with Asia, as simple as it sounds. And I went back a couple of times, obviously related to the sandstone import business, but also for a vacation, like short vacation. Mm-hmm. And I just loved it. And there was just I had this wish or almost an urge to go back there, but live there for a longer period of time. And yeah, in 2013, I just worked over 2 years in a consultancy and I felt it was the right time to realize that dream or that wish a little bit. And I was lucky enough that my partner felt the same way. So we quit our jobs, packed our backpacks and off we went to, an amazing adventure, very simple life. Actually, we lived there, but a super great experience, still memories today from that. And I think, obviously this is a massive privilege if you actually can do that, take that time for a whole year, and experience something like that. But I always say if you have the possibility to do so, I think it's something so enriching. Like, I had a massive impact because things are so different to here and it challenges your views, your values maybe as well. If people can and they want, they should.
I fully agree with that statement. I love it. Then after your trip, you started working for Swisscom. You stayed there until 2023, and then you actually took on the joint project between Swisscom and UBS, which is Deeptech Nation Switzerland. Mm-hmm. What made you say yes to that new job?
Well, there were a couple of reasons to leave the corporate career that I had at that point. I think first and foremost was really the Deep Tech Nation Switzerland story, the mission that Deep Tech Nation Switzerland has. When I heard about it the first time, it totally hooked me, right? So for me, it just totally makes sense. I was like, okay, if we don't act now and really do the necessary steps, we really lose our competitive edge, in like on a global scale. And I just thought it can't be. It can't be that on the one hand, we basically invest so much into creating these outstanding innovations on the one hand, but then when it comes to actually translating the innovations into an actual business and then growing the business, we don't seem to have the same kind of energy and an investment that is necessary. I mean, I don't have to explain to you what happens when you don't find that sort of support in that stage as a venture, as an entrepreneur. Others will gladly take it on. And so for me, this was clear. We need to do something. We need to act. So that was obviously the content that really triggered me and hooked me. On a more personal level, obviously, I was very much interested to building something up. Like I said before, that's kind of what gets me out of bed in the morning, right? And to create an impact, to basically serve a purpose, serve for the greater good of something. Voila. So I could explore my entrepreneurial mindset and skills. Of course, I like a good challenge, and this is for sure a good challenge.
we will talk about more of that area, of that
Sure.
challenge. One important thing I want to really address and dive a bit deeper here is the problem that you just described. Switzerland is really known as a powerhouse when it comes to innovation, but we lack these commercial skills that you just said to also really capitalize on the innovations that we build here in Switzerland. First of all, why is that the case? Why are we not that good at capitalizing this innovation?
Well, I think there is a couple of reasons for that. I think first and foremost, it's like I've implied a little bit before, it's the financing, the growth financing side, that Switzerland is not strong enough, or compared also to other nations, to invest the necessary growth capital for those amazing startups. So I think that's where the first kind of lack is in Switzerland. Second is probably also due to the fact, it's a cultural thing as well, or maybe you could say values as well of the Swiss society, right? I mean, I'm Swiss myself. I don't think we're known as the most risk-taking people as such, whether this is on the entrepreneurial side, to really have like this urge or this ambition for global expansion on the one hand, like just go from a very, very early stage to say, okay, I make everything necessary to actually globally scale. And then also on the investor side, right, like there is a lot of risk aversion. So I would sum this up kind of as maybe mindset or cultural condition that is not there, or not as much there as compared to other nations. And probably the third point is, you could say there is certain framework or conditions in Switzerland, also on the regulatory political basis, that are just not that favorable for really making it, in terms of scaling businesses.
Yeah. And you said you like a challenge. That seems a really big challenge to solve. You want to change the culture, basically, of making us more risk prone in that sense, to take more risks. And you also want to get more money into the growth stage. So how will Deep Tech Nation address these gaps? Because it's very important, but also very challenging to do so at the same time.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a massive challenge. We're not naive. we totally acknowledge that. Say, for instance, the cultural change, right? I mean, I wouldn't say it's impossible, but I think this is something that is not something that you can like fix just like from one day to another. I'm fully aware of that. That's why also with our activities, we go more towards the financial side, like from the capital side, because we really believe, we'll talk about that a little more later, that we can actually make a difference there. And I think also in terms of the regulatory political conditions in Switzerland, we can make actually a change. Also here, it's not something that you can just fix from one day to another, but we believe we have the right activities and programs lined up to work towards that. Culturally, I agree with you. I think that's a very hard thing to change from, even within 10 years or so, right?
But also not impossible. It just takes
Absolutely
some time, right?
It
But
will
you
take
need role
time.
models, you need the effort, and then eventually you might be able to change that as well.
Yeah, I fully agree. Let's see.
So what is the vision of Deep Tech Nation Switzerland? Where do you want to take this? I know you have very bold goals and ambitious goals. What are they? What's the vision behind this?
Yeah, the vision is basically to do everything necessary that we remain competitive as a nation. I mean, obviously this is a huge statement, but like I've said before, we need to really work on the commercializing side of the Swiss innovation ecosystem. And like I've said before, this is growth financing. This is making everything necessary in terms of regulatory condition, in terms of framework, in order to achieve that. So this is kind of our big vision. Let's commercialize the innovations. Let's translate innovation into actual businesses and making sure they can grow. But also the other side, of course, also creating an impact, right? In terms of creating jobs, in terms of creating the impact in terms of solutions that actually solve social pressing topics. I mean, that's what deep tech is all about, in my view.
Yeah.
This is really addressing pressing problems in society.
And what are the specific goals that you want to measure to see whether you're actually achieving these missions?
They're outlined a little bit long term, you could say. So for the next 10 years, this is also the lifespan of our foundation. Afterwards, we will foreclose our activities. So for the next 10 years, we want to make sure that 50 billion Swiss francs is raised in venture capital. So that's 5 billion per year. And then with that, we also want to make sure that 100,000 jobs are created over the next 10 years. And of course, that's the promotional side, that we also want to position Switzerland as the #1 deep tech nation worldwide.
I love that. It's very bold, but we have all the ingredients to make that happen here in Switzerland, I feel.
Absolutely. Well, I think this is maybe a bit of an anecdote, at least for me personally. When we launched the Deep Tech Nation Switzerland Foundation at the Swiss Economic Forum in June this year, there were obviously a lot of reactions because we had quite a good media attention towards these bold goals. And it was interesting to see that kind of from within Switzerland, there was a bit of I wouldn't say shock, but that people were like, wow, this is super ambitious. It's impossible. It's bold. It's, not crazy, but as in, that's kind of shocking. When I was interacting with people from abroad, say the US or Asia, they were like, well, is that all? Is that all what you're trying to achieve?
Aren't you more ambitious?
I mean, this is not ambitious enough.
Yeah.
And I mean, obviously you cannot compare small Switzerland with, powerhouse like the US or, say China. I mean, that's obviously clear, but what kind of was still for me a bit puzzling, you could say, that within Switzerland we're kind of almost a bit too humble to say, how can we go for such big, bold goals when actually everybody abroad feels, well, I think Switzerland has the potential to do far more than that.
Exactly.
So that was kind of a funny reaction, you could say.
And you also sort of have to serve as a role model here, right? If you want to change the culture and how we think within Switzerland, you have to walk the talk.
Absolutely.
So let's also talk about your different initiatives that eventually will help you to contribute to achieve these big, ambitious goals. One of them is Venture Hub Switzerland. Please tell us a bit more. What purpose does the Venture Hub serve?
Venture Hub Switzerland is basically addressing very much the capital side that we were discussing beforehand. So we want to make sure through that program that we do the necessary steps in order to raise, or that Switzerland actually raises that venture capital that we set the bold goals of 50 billion. There are various aspects you can look at. The one that we took as a first initiative within that program is the collaboration with the pension funds, because we see there is huge potential in terms of Swiss pension funds actually investing into the asset class venture capital. They're allowed up to 5% to invest in alternative investments. So this is already great news for Switzerland, I believe. I mean, there are other countries where this is not even possible. It's possible in Switzerland. So this is great. Now we have actually had a lot of conversations in the past couple of weeks to really figure out what do we need to do in order for them to invest more than they do today. What is necessary, right? And to create actually a solution around that. I think it's actually a great moment we're in. Obviously, we haven't solved it completely. It's early days, but we have actually designed a blueprint for an investment vehicle that actually enables pension funds to invest into Swiss innovation, if you want, so, or Swiss start and scale ups. And I think this is fantastic. In my view, if we can make this happen, this will really mean a game changer, you could say, especially in the later stage, in the growth financing, as I have mentioned before, which is so vital and very select today. That's one thing we've been working on there, and also we've created a study together with University of Basel and SECA in order to actually provide transparency on the VC market and also in terms of returns, meaning it's actually worth investing in VC, right? But you need to have a transparency over that to have like a credible dialogue also with pension funds, but in general with the institutional and strategic investors throughout. That's that side, right?
I love that, because often the scale-ups that we help build up in Switzerland with a lot of support in the early days, amazing universities, then for the growth funding, they often go to VCs from abroad. And then you also have sort of the returns that go abroad, and we need them here in Switzerland. The crazy part is that we do have the money here, right? With the pension funds you mentioned. So why is it that today they are not investing more in that asset class already? What was sort of the gap that you identified by talking to them?
There's a couple of reasons for that. I mean, obviously there is, as a pension fund, you need to have stable returns. You need to have, you need to deal with risk profile. So it's totally understandable. I think there is also a lot of, maybe you could say, prejudice towards this asset class, but I see it as our role to also, like I said before, to provide transparency, to also provide the necessary information in order to, not convince, I would say, but to actually kind of outline, what are the possibilities there. And that's what we've been doing. And I think also in terms of the investment vehicle blueprint that I was mentioning before, this is really a vehicle that we have created very much like geared towards their needs. And I think so far something like this doesn't exist. So it's really about to understand what exactly, like even when you go very deep down, in say like creating such a blueprint, to really understand what is working for them and what is not working for them.
And I guess also make it easier for them to invest in that asset class. Yeah. How much money are we talking about here? If we say 1% of the pension fund money out of the 5% that they would be allowed to invest, how much would that be in terms of additional funding for scale-ups in Switzerland?
Yeah. Well, according to our calculation, we're talking about 10 billion. So this 1% equals around 10 billion, which is massive. I mean, this is really a massive number. So again, to manage expectations here, we're just, in the process of trying to make this happen. But obviously, this was why we also started with this program first, because we see the massive potential that's there. Now we just need to do the necessary work and walk the talk, basically.
Absolutely. And I also feel it's the right timing in the ecosystem, because you see more scale-ups emerging out of the universities. We have Scandid, Yokoi, Oviva, Anybotic, so many. Yeah. And now this really seems to be the ideal timing to also get the pension funds invested in these amazing companies.
Yeah, totally. I think you say it right. It's really the right time to do so.
There's another part of your initiatives. It's called Scaleup Booster. And I just wonder, from the name and looking at what you do, is this like an accelerator that you're also launching here?
No, it's not an accelerator. I think it's important to know also as a foundation, we're a catalyst. We're working, basically changing the framework on the conditions that are there today. So with that, we're working on the system, not within it. And so that means we will not create an accelerator or another incubator. We will not invest directly into startups or say mentor or coach them or, facilitate network or something like that. We will not do that. We will really, in terms of the Scaleup booster program, we will look at, again, the conditions that are there. What is actually today hindering a startup to actually becoming a scale-up? The finance side we have addressed with the Venture Hub Switzerland program, that's clear, but then there is also other conditions that need to be in place, that need to be favorable to actually follow that growth journey, right? So we're looking into that. And that can mean that we, for instance, if you talk about accelerators, that we, make sure that they're further supported, that they can actually increase maybe in size, but also especially in their impact. So that's what we're doing. We're looking at them. We're maybe also comparing what do other countries maybe a bit better than what we're doing here. How can we learn from them? What can we apply from that? So that would be the journey in terms of accelerators. Or also as a foundation, we can, take the role to actually support an accelerator financially. That is also, of course, possible. That then would be like kind of a direct support from the foundation towards an accelerator, but we're very, very much looking at framework conditions necessary to be changed.
And what are the gaps that you identified there from a scale-up perspective? Is it mainly also on a political or regulatory level where you say, for example, taxation or visas from outside of Europe are hot topics that always come up again? Are these sort of the gaps that you identified there that are hindering the companies to scale even faster and bigger?
Yeah, absolutely. As you said, there are many. It's about talent. You immediately look at immigration policies. Of course, within the entrepreneurial side, you have the taxation issues. ESOP is such a topic. What is important there is we realize that there are already institutions within the Swiss ecosystems that are actually working on such measures already, right? Yeah. So we're not here to compete with them. Instead, we actually want to offer our help, to support it, to maybe further develop it or to maybe make things faster if possible. Or we also look what is already there, right? And where we can actually support further. And then if something is not covered, we can also, be the one that's initializing the change.
Amazing. Mm-hmm. Then the third initiative that you're working on is a so-called information platform. What are you doing there?
The information platform is, you have to imagine it as kind of an entrée window to the Swiss innovation ecosystem, to see actually what we've just been talking about, right? Like what are all these amazing startups and scale-ups in Switzerland that's worth looking at? How is actually the investors structure in Switzerland? What about the universities? What about the accelerators? Basically the whole Swiss innovation ecosystem, but at one glance. Mm-hmm. I mean, also there, actually all the information is today there. We have everything in Switzerland. It's not that it doesn't exist. The thing is, in our view, it's quite fragmented. So you will find certain information maybe in that report on page 20. You will find it on that website somewhere. And we feel if we want to position Switzerland as a deep tech nation, as a thriving innovation ecosystem to the outside world, we kind of need to aggregate the information. We need to make sure, obviously, that it's up to date, but that it's basically one, like I said before, entrée window, that you can just have it at one glance. You see everything, what's going on here and why it's worth investing in Switzerland, why it's worth working here, why it's worth, creating a business here, etc., etc. So it's kind of a one-stop shop for the Swiss innovation ecosystem.
Also making it easier again.
Absolutely. Yeah.
In that sense.
Making it easier, making it more available, reducing hurdles.
And the last puzzle piece of your initiatives is the international promotion. Why is that important as well? Because you already covered the financing with the first part with the Venture Hub, right? So why is international promotion also an important part?
Well, we just discussed before, the information platform is kind of the pull side, you could say. So there you kind of can pull the information about what's going on here. International promotion is more the push side. And we feel it is important. It's not something that just happens, right? Of course, we have success stories every day of amazing startups, maybe, completing a round, or, having a success, entering a market, or, an investor coming into place, et cetera, universities that, have their success, have maybe built up another research center, et cetera. So there is so much going on. However, we feel we also need to kind of bring that messaging together, also together with institutions who already position Switzerland nowadays internationally, and to create kind of the same messaging and spread it out there. But this is more than like the push side. And I think it's important to do that, right? Like I said before, it doesn't just happen by itself, just by saying, well, there's a couple of success stories. You need to actively transport them to the outside world.
Yeah, spread the word about the amazing work that all these Swiss companies do. Mm-hmm. I love that. And then, hopefully we also have the success story like Duolingo, for example, that then in the end, they will not be a US company, but maybe a Swiss company going international. And everyone knows Switzerland, not only for watches and chocolate, but also for real deep tech scale-ups.
Absolutely. I mean, look, I love personally chocolate, and I think we do have amazing landscape and mountains and everything. And of course, it's fine. It's totally fine to also present Switzerland as that, and that it is an amazing place to be, really high quality of life, of living. But I think Switzerland is really strong in terms of deep tech. This is really our USP as a nation. Yeah. When I was earlier of the year abroad at the conference, it's crazy for me to sometimes have these responses where people say, oh, Logitech, that's a Swiss company, where I think, yeah, it is. Why is this not known? I mean, right?
It's true. Yeah.
Of course, I think most people know Nestle and UBS or Roche Novartis. They're huge multinational companies. But obviously, there is a lot of companies here in Switzerland that are either in a niche or they're actually leading in an industry. I feel we're, again, kind of probably a bit of a Swiss cultural thing. We're very humble. We're not very loud. And I would like this to see changed for Switzerland. I think what we have here, we basically have all the ingredients already as a nation. We like I said before, we have top-notch universities, we have great talent here, we have research centers, we have the multinationals here, we have great startups, great scale-ups, we have investors, there is money. There's actually everything here. Now I feel the world just needs to know about that.
It really feels that just we're like the last step, the last mile that is missing. Everything is sort of ready and greatly set up.
Absolutely.
Amazing. Now that we better understand your initiatives, I also want to talk about the organization, the foundation behind it. First of all, you also need money, of course, to finance your activities and to really get to these amazing and ambitious goals and visions. So how are your operations financed?
Of course, it's important. Otherwise, we can't do the work without the financial support. We have basically UBS and Swisscom, which are our founding partners. And then alongside, we also are very happy that basically SwissRe, Rolex, SIX, Vaudoise Assurance, Sigba are supporting us. And there is a couple of more corporate partners which we can announce in the next couple of weeks. So it's great to count on their support.
And corporates, I get it. They're really important for the financing. They have the money. And oftentimes, at least from the outside, there's a bit of criticism that just says, well, of course they got the money, but they just do that support for branding reasons. So I wonder how much is really deep, genuine interest on deep tech and innovation as a topic, and how much of that collaboration is just branding per se, to say, hey, we do something, but we don't really care too much. A bit like the greenwashing, but maybe innovation washing.
Okay, the innovation washing. Haven't heard that one before. No, I mean, look, I think it's fair to say they're 100% committed to what we're doing here at Deep Tech Nation Switzerland Foundation. The Deep Tech Nation Switzerland story that we also have in our book is full commitment. And I think that says it already, right? I mean, they are interested that Switzerland remains competitive as a nation. They're very much interested to see actually great Swiss startups and scale-ups, founders teams to grow and to actually have an impact in an industry to even become leading. They want to see this progress equally as we do as a team at Deeptech Nation. So I think that is really not some sort of innovation washing or something. It's a true commitment towards the foundation. But I think, I mean, the foundation is one thing, right? They're also part of the innovation ecosystem. I mean, if you see how much the brands that are supporting us, but obviously also other brands, how much they do already with, directly in terms of their role in the innovation ecosystem, I think it's amazing. They're supporting accelerators. They're supporting so many associations who then support, again, founders and founders' teams. They support educational institutions, and they actually also are investors themselves, right? Often they have a venture arm. So I think there is really a massive dedication in Switzerland in terms of supporting the innovation ecosystem. I mean, of course, not going to lie, I think that's clear. A branding, you do also something for a branding or for a PR purpose, but I think that's normal. Everybody does that.
Yeah, but it's not the main motivation.
It's
That's
not
what you're saying.
No, absolutely not. They could support other ventures, or they could support other foundations. They could support anything, really. I mean, but they have decided to support this one here, and also to further develop their role within the innovation ecosystem.
There was also a bit of a discussion going on LinkedIn where people say, hey, corporates, they are important, but their best role is just to become an LP in a fund, send the money and leave the rest to professionals, so to speak.
Right.
It's a pretty extreme view on one hand, but I'm just wondering, what's your take on that? Because on one hand, you want to support all around it, the whole innovation ecosystem. But then there's the pure, okay, just give us the money. We invested in the next generation of scale-ups. You don't need to do anything else. What's sort of your take on that statement that corporates are best positioned as LPs in funds?
Obviously, this is a provocative statement, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, especially on social media, if you blast out a statement like this, you know what's going to happen.
You want some attention.
You
as
want
well.
some attention,
Yeah.
exactly. And I think this is very entertaining. To as soon as you see certain kind of polarizing statements, then people start interacting. And like you said, it creates a lot of attention. So fair enough, whoever wrote something like this, I have definitely a different opinion on that one, to just, take the corporate brands and just put them into one corner and say, you know what, please just be in the background, be an LP. And that's about it. I think people who think that way really underestimate actually the importance, the massive importance corporates are. I mean, seriously, how can a startup actually grow without having clients?
Of course, and the corporates are the clients.
Who is going to be the client, right? So I think, LP is one role. That's a great role. It's a vital role, but it's not the only role there is. And I think also, and especially in Switzerland, having all these multinationals here, this also gives you access to markets.
Of course.
How would you not want to benefit from something like this? I think it's clear that the collaboration between startup scale-ups and corporates in Switzerland and also elsewhere probably could be, improved. It's also something that we'll look at in the Scale-Up Booster program. But for sure, I wouldn't support the statement of saying, let's just put the corporates into that corner and everything else should be done by professionals. I think that was a statement that, suited the purpose of attention.
I see. My last question is, since you're working with corporates, there's another sort of, generalized statement like, they lack a bit of agility. It takes a long time to reach a decision. So with the corporates as backers of the foundation, how do you make sure that you actually get stuff done and you execute step by step towards your vision and your goals, basically?
Well, look, I've been working in the corporate environment for quite some time, so I think this helps me to understand what is important in a corporate and also in a collaboration with a foundation like ours. I mean, at the end of the day, we're a super small team at Deeptech Nation Switzerland Foundation, and it will stay that way. So, of course, we have to extremely focus our activities and our time to actually make that impact within the next 10 years. So it's clear I don't have time, neither do have my team to, to kind of unnecessary rounds or work or something like that. That's clear. But I feel in the dialogue with our partners, they very much understand that we do not have the capacity to, to do maybe certain things that you're obliged to do within a corporate. So basically, I think key is to manage expectations, to also give transparency over and on what we are actually working on, what our activities are, where our kind of midterm goals are. And so they understand and are part of the story, to make it happen. And then I think we are all aligned and we can execute fast.
Perfect. And I know you're still pretty at the beginning of your 10-year journey to really get to these big amounts of investments and jobs. But what is your track record so far? Because I know you've been very active, and the pension fund story you mentioned at the beginning is a first very important win, or at least move in the right direction. So what is the track record so far that you can share with us?
Yeah, like you said, early days. We've started in June, really, with our operations, but yes, I agree. For us, I would say the biggest achievement so far has been this blueprint of an investment vehicle to actually enable pension funds to invest more or better. So I think this is, obviously we cannot put like a green tick behind that already. That would be far too early. And there is still a lot of work to do, but I think this is one of the major achievements. Otherwise, we're very close to a first MVP launch of the information platform. And then through that, we can obviously further develop it and learn. But, to kind of go out there as a first step, I think this is also a big achievement. We've been working on that together with, many people from the innovation ecosystem, likewise with the Venture Hub, with the pension fund vehicle. So we've always been very much in collaboration with people from the ecosystem, right? So we do the right thing. So I think these are the two major achievements. And then obviously, I think we've been quite okay in terms of spreading the word, to position ourselves, to also get support, not only from our corporate partners, but also from, kind of partners out there who support our initiative, but are not like a financial donor. So I think that's also quite an achievement, like kind of from a no-name to where we are today. Definitely.
And I just wonder, how do you actually measure your success or the return on investment? Is it how close you get to these visions that you shared at the beginning, or how would you capture that return or success?
Well, I would like to say not just to get close to those goals, but to actually achieve them. Again, I understand it's a big challenge for us, but for me, the measurement are the 50 billion in 10 years, the 100,000 jobs, and to position deeptech nation as number one globally. That's it.
Perfect. It's very easy to say yes or no then, in that sense.
Exactly.
I like that. And now we understood a bit more what you do and how you work, but what else should Swiss startups actually focus on in order to make it big on a global level with their deep tech innovations?
Well, this is a tricky question, to be honest, Silvan. First and foremost, it's obviously the ambition level. If you look at at an entrepreneur's team to say, okay, we really have this hunger to make it globally. I think that's probably kind of the major thing to do, but that's obviously not up to me to say.
Yeah,
it's something that's you kind of feel or is the agreement you want to have as a team or as an entrepreneur.
And I personally love that ambition and also the, hey, let's go global early on and really conquer the world with our startup, with our technology. But then I also wonder, do all Swiss startups need to make it big?
It's again tricky. I mean, no, you don't need to do anything at the end of the day in life. I just feel there is so much potential for Swiss startups to actually make it globally. And I feel if there is actually potential there, one should use it, and one should really seize it. So that's my personal opinion. However, I mean, if you look today in Switzerland, I would say about 70%, I don't have this fact check, but I think about 70% are working in SME, right? So no, not every startup in the end needs to become a huge corporation and being, leading in an industry or something like that. There is also other factors, to value creation in a society other than, okay, I need to make sure this is huge. I just think, and I mean, in my view, this is actually a fact. When you're big, you have impact, you have influence, and on so many levels, and especially for an economy and for a society, I think that's just a fact. And again, if there's potential there, I just feel, we should actually seize it. We should use it.
I like that perspective a lot, because with that potential, if you don't use it, you also give away a lot of potentially positive influence to the world, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's also about, I think you've mentioned that before, about role models, right? If you see somebody else has made it for generations to come, this also sets an example. Yeah. And it's something I would love to see for Switzerland, to actually have more role models like this, who actually dared, who went out there and yeah, you said conquered the world. Yeah. Like really made an impact. I think this is amazing. And I think we have everything in Switzerland possible to do so.
And we do have a few great role models like On or Logitech that you mentioned.
Exactly.
And hopefully many more to come in the next years.
Yeah, that's the goal.
So to wrap up the conversation today, we also have some rapid fire questions for you.
Okay.
I give you one question you have to answer in maximum one sentence.
All right.
You ready?
Let's go. Yeah.
What is the antidote to Swiss modesty?
Sales talk.
Nice. Are you more of an early bird or a night owl?
Night owl.
What can Silicon Valley learn from the Swiss ecosystem? I know you've traveled there recently.
I'd say, not my words, actually words of American VC, to actually have more substance other than sales talk.
I like that. I think we're good at this, but not so good at the sales talk.
Exactly.
Here.
Yeah.
In that sense, business or science?
Both.
The combination, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly. And what is the most impressive Swiss startup story in your opinion? I know there are many to choose from, but one that sticks out?
Climeworks, for sure. I think that's very much known. And I'd say as a rising star, Neustock.
Very nice. They've also been on the podcast recently.
Yeah, I know.
And the last question for you, I know this is very mean and also very EPFL and ETH focused, Zurich or Lausanne, if you had to choose one.
Yeah, okay, that is mean. You know what? I say St. Gallen since I'm from there, since I'm from the east of Switzerland. No, I'm just kidding. They're both amazing cities. And voilà, I'll leave it at that.
You choose Switzerland. That's it.
I choose Switzerland.
Fair enough. Joanne, thank you so much for coming on the show. Really amazing work that you and your team do, and so important for Switzerland. Thank you for your time today, and the best of luck and success for the future.
Thank you very much, Silvan. Much appreciated.
We hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you did, you can support us by rating our show on Apple Podcasts. This way, we can reach an ever-growing number of aspiring entrepreneurs.